living a full and well life is put together, grow, authentic.
We feel it.
Take care of ourselves.
Hello, and welcome back to the Wishing You Well podcast, where we help you navigate your wellness journey each and every week. I'm Amy Albero.
And I'm Catherine Van Eyck. We're both licensed therapists and talking to you and trying to simplify all things wellness. And today we are answering listener questions. We have a whole Q&A going on. And these are great.
Yeah, I'm very excited to chat about these questions. Very relatable.
Which ones are relatable?
One in particular, but honestly, for me, both.
Ooh, okay, cool.
And as a reminder, you can send your listener questions to us to wishingyouwell@revivecfw.com. We love getting them. We've also had some frequent flyers in our inbox, which we also love, having some dedicated listeners continuing to send questions in. We love it. So if you'd like your question answered by us, again, that's wishingyouwell@revivecfw.com. We are definitely excited to get into the questions, but before we do, we have to check in, of course, as we do. So, Catherine, how are you? How's your self-care?
I got really excited to talk about my self-care today. As well, maybe as some of the listeners know, if they've been watching, definitely, because you take sips of your water bottle quite often while we record, as she takes a sip now. Amy, you love your Stanley.
I'm a Stanley girl.
Yes, Stanley. And I had a little knockoff Stanley Target. Don't even know what the brand was. Didn't have a handle, but it had a straw. That's all that mattered to me. And it was big. And so I had it for a while. I had it actually, I think I got it during pregnancy, and then I had it through most of, until a couple of weeks ago. And it really came in handy during the first couple months after I gave birth, drinking tons of water. Like when you're breastfeeding, you have to really take in a lot of water. And I learned that I really shouldn't have a straw when I have a water bottle, because I spill this thing like no other. And it bothered me a little bit, but it bothered my husband so much more than it bothered me, to the point that was kind of funny that he's like, "Oh, can you please get a different water bottle?" And I was like, "But I love the straw." And I couldn't find anything that had a straw, but also a lid, or gave you the option to switch it out when you didn't want the straw. And I was just kind of at a water bottle loss, which frankly made me upset, because I think it's really important.
It is. It is. Finding the right water bottle for you is almost as important as finding the right partner, you know?
Hot take.
Personal opinion.
So that's kind of how I felt with this. But there also isn't a matchmaking website or app out there for find the water bottle for you. There should be. Amy, create it. Add it to your list of things to do. Put it on my list of things to do. So anyways, this was quite the dilemma. Actually, a few weeks ago, I spilled this water bottle, and I got so fed up. It was late at night. I spilled this water bottle. I chucked it into the garbage. I was like, "This is it. I'm done."
We're breaking up.
It was a moment of rage where I threw this thing out, and then I didn't have a water bottle, which was devastating. So dramatic. Until my sister-in-law was like, "Have you heard about this one called Owala?" And I was like, "No, can you tell me more?" So she told me about this water bottle. It is a straw water bottle. It has a lid, but it's not one of those flippy straws. I don't like the flippy straw thing. Never been a fan. The cleaning part freaks me out. I just wanted a regular straw. So for those watching, here's my Owala. Very, very trash can looking thing. Can't take credit for that joke either. That was my brother-in-law. He's like, "That literally looks like the swinging top trash can." And it does. And look, there's a little thing so you can, oh, whoopsie. There's a little thing so you can carry it, but it also locks it. And then you press this little button and out pops the straw. But you can also swig it, which I don't like to do, because that's what spills all over me too. I don't know. Maybe I just never learned how to drink or put things down. I'm not really sure, but that's my issue, and it's been solved. So
That's amazing. The straw /swig ability is pretty interesting. technology, water bottle technology.
Top of the line.
So do you have a goal? So I noticed it's on this, it's smaller than a Stanley.
It is smaller. Their bigger one doesn't fit in a cup holder, which is
Okay,
also a big
that's
one for
another
me.
thing. That's why I do
Yeah.
like the Stanley over Yeti, because this will fit in a in a cup holder.
But what do you do when you travel?
I use a small Yeti.
Oh.
Yes.
The gas from afar.
It's really complicated. So how many of those do you aim to drink a day?
I haven't gotten that far, Amy. I've
Okay,
just gotten
okay.
to I have this new water bottle. It
Okay.
came in one day, and now I'm drinking it like no other
Oh, it's
because when
brand
you
new.
it's
It's
brand
like
new.
an infant.
So that's my water bottle TED talk.
Wait, can I just say, not only did I kick my water bottle over just right before you started telling me about your water bottle saga, but I tote my Stanley everywhere, and it's often like relatively full when I'm trying to carry it around. And I'm also trying to carry like something else in my same hand, so it always spills. And so this morning, I like my delirium of sleeplessness, I ordered the like caps that go on top. I don't know if that will help, but it will slow the drip. So
The way you were holding it up, it looks like you're clawing it, and it's like an appendage.
it's part of me now.
Most people's phones are part of them, and you're walking around, you don't have another hand.
But okay, so my self-care in some I guess I've been thinking about them in terms of quick hits, like,
Mhm.
so because they're like relatively small, but not. The first being that, um, as I've been saying, I've been somewhat enjoying getting my nails done recently, but one of the things that impacts your manicure is like if your hands are like consistently wet, then it will, not allow your manicure to last as long. And I like, we have a dishwasher, but I can't like put pots and pans in the sink. So I've been wearing gloves when I wash my pots and pans, which I've never done before because it kind of grosses me out. But it's in service of my manicure. And so it's kind of it's like again a very small self-care thing that I'm doing.
Wait, I have a question. First of all, hard to relate on the gloves question
Mhm.
mark? What? I just started wearing them, like, a couple of months ago myself, and it was, like, a game changer for washing dishes. Amazing. Secondly, though, how is it more gross to wear the gloves than
I
not?
don't know. It's just that they're like they get so like warm inside, and like, sometimes like water gets in, and it just like
Oh, you can't let that happen,
I
Amy.
know, it just sometimes like skeeves me out. So I'm working on it, but it is way better. Yeah, I do feel less gross touching certain things with my gloved hand. But it wasn't even about that. It's like I'll touch the gross stuff, but now it's like I want my manicure to last. But anyway, so that's quick hit number one. Quick hit number two is just I'm reading a lot. Because I'm traveling so much, I'm not using that time to work. I'm using it to read for better or worse. And I read like 3 books in the last week. No, 4 books in the last week. And I'm already up to sorry, how many books have I read this year? 13 books this year. And my reading goal was 25 for this year. So that's feeling
Whoa,
really good. So
amazing.
I have to change my goal. But yeah, I've been reading some great books, a mix of Kindle and also audiobook that I'm loving.
Are they all thrillers? I know you're into those.
Well, the 2 books I read this week, both of them were thrillers, and I would recommend them both. One of them was None of This Is True. That was on Audible. It was so well done as an Audible, and they're sometimes hit or miss. Love that. None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. The next one was All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. And if anyone is into true crime, she is the host of the Crime Junkie podcast. And so she wrote and narrated this book, and it was really good, twists and turns the whole way through. So those 2 are great audiobooks. And then I read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, which are all the TikTok buzz, and definitely worth the hype. I loved Fourth Wing way more than Iron Flame, but very good stuff.
And I know about those books too from social media, but like all my friends are reading them too. Um, is Fourth Wing its own series, or that's one book and then the other one's the second book?
So it's part of the like Empyrean series. So it's books
Oh,
1 and 2, and I guess book 3 is coming out at some point soon.
oh, okay. How
Yeah.
do they compare to ACOTAR?
So the fifth book I read was Akotar 3, which I did
Ah,
not love as much. I preferred so I really liked the first book of A Court of
Thorns and
Roses
Roses.
and Thorns, or Thorns and Roses. But I didn't the second two were like fine. I loved Fourth Wing so much. I thought it was really good. Iron Flame just like had a lot. It was very cool. It had like you learned about the political landscape of things, and there, but it was like heavy on the battle scene, and I was just
Ooh,
like, this isn't like so much of what I'm into.
mhm.
Um, so it was good. I mean, I thought they were better than Akotar.
Okay.
So
Oh, I've also only read the first three.
mhm.
I think I read all of the third one of ACOTAR, but also felt the same way. And also, like, it's young adult, so I was like, this could get steamier if we were in
If
adults.
we
And I
were
felt
adulty adults. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, Fourth Wing and Iron Flame were also, like young adult too. So
okay.
disclaimer. So that's self-care quick hit number 2. And then number 3 is, I guess, kind of a bigger one in a different context. But I don't remember if I shared on the podcast or shared with you separately. But I had been working with a dietitian
Yes.
most of
Yes.
2023, and so I switched working with a dietitian. So I have different goals now, and one of the things in my check-in with her that I said is, "I'm really bad at asking for help. I didn't reach out to my previous dietitian enough in between our appointments just for questions and stuff, so that's something that I'm going to do." And kind of like message like unlimited messaging is like included in my, like, plan and working with my dietitian, and so I reached out to her a couple of times already and just said like, "Hey, just quick question about this," or, I'm struggling with, like, trying to make something work for me, like, can you help me out?" And it's been great, and so just, like, again, reaching out for help, not sort of, like, wallowing in self-pity around, like, "I don't know what to do," or "I feel stuck," when I have a resource there that I'm, like, paying for to support me, so,
What an array of self care
yeah, it's all over the map.
for you. And like, there's a mixture there of self care and trying to grow and get out of
Mhm,
your comfort zone with asking for help. So that's sometimes not self care, even though support is self care.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, I think, like, as if anyone's been a listener of this podcast for a while, like, the reaching out for help, like, the delegating, I think for both of us, we've talked about that, and I know especially as it was leading up to, like, your, delivery, trying to think about that, like, how to like get some resources in place, some supports in place before like you were not as able to engage in caring for yourself or just like your daily needs as you can now. And I think I'm trying to also keep that in mind too of like how can I utilize the supports that I have in order to help me help myself better. And it's important.
Mhm.
I just want to take a quick pause to tell you that Revive is hiring. In our Miami and Pittsburgh offices, we have full and part-time W-2 and 1099 clinician positions available, and this includes both postgraduate and associate level licenses, in addition to fully licensed clinicians. In our Connecticut offices, we have full-time, fully licensed W-2 clinician positions available, including clinical supervisor opportunities. If you are interested in working for a company that values community, work-life balance, and your personal and professional growth, then we want to meet you. Find a link to our website in our bio.
All right. Should we get into our questions?
Let's get into them.
All right. Do you want to read the first one?
Okay. The first one, I feel like I've hit a roadblock or I've plateaued in my therapy. I've been going for a while and now I'm not sure what to talk about or what to bring. And it seems like things are repetitive at this point. I'm thinking of stopping. Is this a good idea?
Great question. This was also pretty relatable. Have you ever felt like this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm definitely going to bring that up. Well, first, I think it's important to say right now I'm not going to therapy. Um, I stopped literally maybe like a week before my baby was born, and because I knew I wasn't going to go for a while after that, and I haven't gone back yet. obviously like have plans to later, and maybe this it'll come for full circle later in the conversation. But no, I've definitely felt like this, not in this past therapy experience that I've had, but with a prior therapist. I just felt like I was like getting to a point where I was like, we're talking about the same thing. Like I know I know what my issue is, and I and I feel like I'm addressing it. And I feel like you're not giving me anything here. Like what where are we going with this?
Mhm.
And so I totally felt I felt that from a client perspective. And then also definitely from the therapist perspective. I know you and I have talked about this supervisor to supervisee, talked about this in group supervision before. Like we can come to this point with clients where we're wondering, like, is this helping them still? Or
Mhm. Mhm.
is this going anywhere? Does this should we keep this up? Do we need to revisit the goals here, or like what they're getting out of this? So certainly been there from the therapist seat.
Mhm.
How about you?
Yeah. Oh gosh. For sure. Yes, for sure. On the therapist side of things, exactly what you said. And also on the client side of things, I think sometimes I often wonder, like, for me, like plateauing and goodness of fit with my therapist often go hand in hand when I think about that. Like when I tend to have this question of like, is this really helping me? Am I making progress? Sometimes I am also thinking about like, is this therapist a good fit for me? And I've certainly felt that. I've even felt that within my own therapy relationship right now is like, what are we doing here? Or yeah, we keep talking about the same things, or like the same theme comes up. And I think where it gets really tough to be a therapist in therapy, but I imagine non-therapist clients feel this too, of like, okay, like we keep saying like this is the thing and it keeps happening. And so there's an equal level of like frustration with myself and also frustration with like, aren't you gonna help me with this? Kind of idea here that I think comes up as well.
Mhm. I know, and that's where I'm curious for this particular listener who asked this question, if they've felt like they've plateaued, or they feel like they're at this roadblock because things are like you said, and like what I'm saying, like things are coming up over and over again, and they don't know if that means like, okay, I'm good to go, like we're kind of done with this now. And I don't have another like topic, quote unquote, to like move on to.
Mhm.
Um, so does that mean that I'm done? Or like if we've kind of like had almost like that light bulb moment, and now I know when to recognize it in my life. I know like how to, let's say, like limit my reactivity around it. I know how to spot it when I see it.
Mhm.
So now what do I do? Um I also can understand like the challenge in trying to figure out like what does that mean?
Right.
Um and like the best answer, kind of like short answer to that, I have a lot more to say on this, but like a short answer to that, I would say like, have you talked to your therapist about this yet?
I'm on the same page with that. That was like my immediate question is like, is this something that you've brought up to your therapist? And I think the way that the listener kind of phrased this question is like very thoughtful. And I think as a therapist, I would really appreciate hearing I feel like I've plateaued. I feel like we're kind of talking about the same thing. I don't kn when do we say when here? And I think that's such a good conversation just in general to be having in therapy with your therapist. And I know this listener can't necessarily go back in time, but that's also a good first appointment question,
Mhm.
to be or discussion to be having is like, "Okay, how are we gonna know when we're done here?" Like, and what will that look like? And who's gonna bring that up, right? Like, if I, as the client, feel like I'm good to go, I like, should that be me talking about it? Should I defer to you as the professional? Like, are you gonna tell me when you feel like we're good? So I think that's definitely like a good first question to ask. But talking about it with your therapist is so important because as therapists, like depending on the therapist school of thought, like we all of our clients have the right to self-determination. Our clients take the lead in their therapy in terms of like where they want the therapy to go. And so much of the therapy work happens outside of the therapy room. And so sometimes like for a therapist to push their own agenda toward a certain direction would be unethical. And so sometimes therapists do like not sometimes therapists want your input on the process. We're not in the driver's seat. We're riding shotgun right alongside you, like helping you get to where it is that you want to go. And so, yeah, talking to your therapist about this, I think would be a good thing. Um, I also think, what does plateau mean? And is plateau a bad thing? I think that's something that's also gotten a bad rap. Like whether it's like, when I think about people often use the word plateau as it relates to weight. Um, and is like another word for plateau is maintenance. Like I've maintained this state of being for a while. Is that bad? Like is that okay? And is that different from where you came in? And so I would also just want to know like the association with plateau. Um and also the idea of what like therapy being productive, like to what end? Like what does that mean and what does that look like? But it does sound like from this listener's perspective, it feeling repetitive is a really good indicator that like something needs to shift
Mhm.
for sure. And whether that's again what the therapist does, what you do, what you guys do together, whenever you can like almost predict the cadence of a session, like that's never really a good sign.
Yeah. I love the way you formulated the idea around plateauing and maintenance. And I think that maybe plateauing gets such a bad rap because when somebody goes into therapy, they're thinking like, I'm looking to like better myself, or I'm looking to change, and I'm looking to get to a point where I'll just know that, either like this situation in my life is better, or I know how to approach X, Y, and Z better, or my anxiety feels more better managed. Whatever it is that you're going into it thinking, like you're going into it thinking like you're always like striving for something new.
Yeah.
At least that's what this client definitely sounds like. Not my client, not your client, just client. That's what this listener sounds like. That you're somebody that's like really just like looking to grow. And when you're looking to grow and you reach that point of like what you said, like maintenance, like you start to think like, is this okay? Can I live with this? Or like, am I looking for something that doesn't necessarily have to be there? Like you don't have to be
Mhm.
constantly growing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, going back to self reflect and figure out if you're in need of personal growth or whatever it is that you're looking for. That's great. But like, you also don't have to be doing that all the time.
Mhm. Right. Yes, that's so true. And I think just the way that our culture is in terms of it being so aspirational and being like that we always need to be striving towards something does like create an extra pressure on therapy and on like personal growth. And some seasons are just for being, not necessarily growing. And
Which I feel like could potentially be that where this conversation could lead with this listener and their therapist. That maybe this opens up the conversation for you, listener, about why you feel like you need to constantly be going and moving and not just being. Is it you and me? Are
I
we this
mean,
client?
I think low key, high key, I'm this client. But
Mhm.
it's not unique to us
Yeah.
for sure because I know as a therapist, like you've had clients like this, for sure. And I think another thing here, I was just thinking about some clients that I've had who I've had like such great conversations with around like I feel like we've done a lot of really good work here. And I would love to take a break from therapy and apply all the things that we have done. And I'll reach back out to you if and when I need to. And I love that because therapy is meant to be a place to practice in some ways, but like we want you to use the things that you practice in therapy in your real life. Like the idea isn't necessarily that have us along with you your entire life. I mean, it's not necessarily the goal. So I think that's again something to talk with your therapist about, but also maybe some of the work is being okay with being okay.
Mhm. And and the idea of practicing in therapy, I think like both personally and professionally, I feel like a cool way to kind of look at it is like entering therapy with something that's going on for you and things are like boiling over. And then therapy helps you bring those things down to a simmer.
Mhm.
And then when you kind of feel like you might have a good handle on whatever it is, that maybe things have actually gone flat and that's okay. And that once, one of those carbonation gas bubbles comes up every once in a while, you know what to do to bring it back down before it
Mhm.
gets to that boiling point. And maybe you know what to do because of what you learned in therapy or what, just what you got out of therapy. Or maybe you know what to do, as in what you just said, like go back to therapy.
Mhm. Another thing that's really relevant to note, and this might not be true of all therapists, it's definitely like style dependent. But as you were saying, oftentimes people come into therapy because they're at a crisis point or at a point where things are really, really stressful and they want support. And so much of that time is spent managing that thing. And what I really love is once a person has either navigated through that challenge or just has learned enough skills to get through that, is that they remain in therapy because once things are at that kind of like baseline, like high functioning level, that gives us so much more opportunity to get into the deeper stuff that might have made this stressful thing that much more stressful. Like we really get to unpack and unearth some roots, like once that crisis has passed. And so like I've often said, like, I want you to just hang in like for a couple of weeks after you feel like you're done. Like I really just want us to hang in and see what happens. And that's often like real the real work is.
Yeah. I made a note of that too, because like as sort of like a question for this listener, could this potentially be a sign where you are resisting
Mm,
going deeper? And I think you're
yes.
exactly right, because sometimes it is like the perfect time to really get into the nitty-gritty.
Yes, agreed. But I would say my big homework or suggestion to this listener is next therapy session, don't quit yet. Next therapy session, talk to your therapist about this and figure out together like a good path forward.
Mhm.
And maybe that is discontinuing therapy, or maybe it's, as you were saying before, readjusting your therapy goals, or maybe it's again that good opportunity to like address potential avoidance or like deeper stuff that you might not be getting to.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious if you do wanna follow up after you've had that conversation, let us know what happened, send us that
Yeah.
email, and then we can come back in another Q&A if you have more questions around that, or,
Mhm.
we can just simply give it a little update. That would be awesome.
Yeah, we love an update. And maybe there is something around like how to know if a therapist is the right fit for you. Like maybe we can have a discussion around that at some point because I do think that that is something that people often ask about. Like I was just meeting with our intake coordinator today and she was saying that sometimes like after the first session a client will say like I don't know, I'm not sure, like how do I know if it's right? Like it felt fine, but it didn't feel like a match made in heaven. Like, should I stick it out? And so I do think that there are a lot of misconceptions about good therapy fit and also just therapy in general.
Yes, well, and I actually was listening to a CEU recently about the intake process and about how an intake is sort of like a first kiss. Have you heard this?
Mm-mm.
And like the therapist client relationship is a very intimate relationship. So thinking of it like the first kiss, it has to be in the right setting, it has to be the
Mm.
right moment, it has to be with the right person, it has to be, all of these things have to fall into place. But as you're saying, it doesn't have to actually just like be love at first sight either with your
No
therapist.
fireworks on night one.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be so profound of an experience as much as it just has to leave you feeling comfortable. It has to leave you feeling, okay, you know what? Yeah, you're right. We need to have a whole episode on this.
I guess, but to that end, if you listeners have any specific questions around therapy, a therapist, goodness of fit, how to find the right one, um, let us know. And Catherine and I will be back with a greater discussion on this.
Mhm.
Okay, so we love letting you all behind the curtain and being as transparent as we can with you all. During this recording, we ran into so many issues technologically, internet wise, sound wise. And so we are going to keep this episode to just the one question, and we will be back to talk about the other question at some point very soon. We appreciate your patience with us and for letting us give you a bite-sized episode today. We will be back next week with another episode. Until then, you can follow along with us on Instagram at Revive CFW. You can follow Catherine at Catherine Van Eyck, me at Amy Alvaro LCSW. And if you want another podcast fix this week from us, you can check out Reactivity TV, which is a podcast that my husband and I co-host together, where we're talking about The Bachelor season 28. And you can check that out on YouTube. And don't forget to send in your listener questions to wishingyouwell at revivecfw.com. Until next time, we are wishing you well.